This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hoop City at the most wonderful time of the year. My gosh, and it has not disappointed as March Madness is off and running. The insanity is in full bloom. What a great first 2 days. I think it dispels some of the fears that the mid-majors can't compete with the high majors anymore because of all the NIL controversy, all the money. But anyway, we're going to dive into that, and we've got great guests today. And we're going to but let's get right at it because we got so much to cover. If you have any questions about March Madness, 833-401-1440, 833-401-1440. Love to have your insights, questions, observations of what you thought of the first 2 days and the exciting part about what's going to be coming up today. That's what I love about March Madness. I mean, we went from 68 teams 4 days ago. We're down to 32. This thing is ruthless. It's cutthroat. Win or go home. Win, head to your classroom, or in the case of High Point, go to your exclusive restaurants and go to your upscale spas and all that facilities. I'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. I'm joined this morning by the one, the only Josh Fenwick. Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Paul. Happy to be here with you. Excited that it's March. You know, we're in the best sporting window of the year, in my opinion, with this. And then shortly after, it's going to be the Masters. And then we'll have NBA playoffs. It's the beginning of something beautiful. Nice way to get us into the swing of spring.
Oh, very good with the Masters tie-in like that. My gosh.
That's my favorite time of the year.
Oh, my gosh. That's fantastic.
I'm a professional.
We also have Manib Khan with us this morning. Manib, great to have you here.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Obviously, love Saturdays. I missed the last 2 weeks. Missed you guys. Missed talking basketball with you, Paul, honestly. So great honor to be here. And March Madness, greatest time of the year, in my opinion, with sports. NBA, all the games are meaningful now.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. So there's so much happening in the world of just hoops.
It's an amazing time of the year. And Josh, I really appreciate your Canadian approach to your qualifying about this being the most wonderful time of the year. Here's the Canadian approach, in my opinion. I'm just glad you didn't say I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interfere with the hockey pundits out there.
That's okay. I can throw the. So sorry, eh?
Sorry,
sorry to be a hoser there.
I'm so sorry, eh? Like, this is basketball. What's this stuff? Where's the puck? So we've got great hoops talk today. Our guests are incredible today. We've got Lisa Thomaidis, the head coach of the University of Saskatchewan. Lisa, in my opinion, is one of the finest coaches I've ever seen at any level. We had the privilege of having Lisa in Edmonton for many, many years. As people may now be forgetting, unfortunately, Edmonton was the home training center for the Canada basketball women's national team. And they were, I think, we were a major contributor in the ascendancy of the program when Lisa and her great staff brought this very hungry group of women into Edmonton, and they propelled from number 19 in the world to number 4 in the world by the time they moved away from Edmonton. So Lisa had a real presence here, and she's our community champion today. But she also, she's not bad. She just won back-to-back national championships. She was the coach of the national team, like I mentioned, for Canada basketball. When that ended, she went over to Germany and was their national team coach, led them to, I think, a career best or historical best for Germany for the women's program. So Lisa will be with us at 10:20. Then we have Mike DeCourcy. And Mike, I've had on the show over the years many times. He's been the lead writer for the NBA for the Sporting News since 1995. And Mike is, you talk about going in the weeds. Mike is subterranean, under the roots. Like, he is the guy who just, he does all of the Fox News brackets. He's that good. Like, the guy's incredible. And then, of course, speaking of incredible, the great Ben Golliver comes back, and we really go into the NBA and Luka's 60 points and all the great stuff happening there. So we have a poll question today, Josh, and boy, is it as simple as it gets.
Oh, yeah. It's the simplest one we've had so far, and personal bias can really play into this one. Does Duke make the Final Four this year? Yes or no? You can find that poll on our X account, Hoop City Show, at Hoop City Show, all one word. No underscores, don't put any of those in there. But yes, will Duke make the Final Four? Yes or no?
Duke is such a polarizing entity. I don't know. I still don't quite have a handle on it. I've got, we all have our own theories and feelings, but back to the days of Christian Laettner, and even before, they were always regarded as the bougie school, rich boys, all of that. Then Laettner comes in, and he's like the anti-hero, stepping on, I forget the player's name, from Kentucky's chest, and in that same game, hitting probably what most people regard as the greatest shot in NCAA March Madness history, in amongst all those fabulous finishes. But the other day, Duke did not look good. They looked rattled. They looked flustered, both at the coaching level, and Manib, you mentioned that in your comments when we were walking in here, at the coaching level as well as the playing level. Cameron Boozer looked like a freshman, Josh, for the first time.
Yeah, I know, and he still had over 20 points. He still had a double-double. Like, that's crazy.
It really is. So, but let's jump into three from deep, do our 3+1.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so our first one is about a tournament. However, not about March Madness. The 5A and provincials. Shep played a game. And how about that 5A format?
You know what? I'll make this, I hope, brief, succinct, but impactful. When I started as the executive director for Alberta basketball in 2008, one of the first things I tried to do, and it was either 2009 or 2010, I went and presented to the Alberta Schools Athletics Association, which is the governing body for high school sports in the province, all sports. And I made a presentation to the board of directors on a number of different issues, but one of them was go to a 5A or elite level category. And it was twofold. One, best plays the best in the provincials. That's not rocket science. But B, to combat the move to prep schools that was inevitable, that we're going to start taking kids out of the school programs and taking them into prep school programs. Now, I'm not condemning it overall. Overall, I'm not a fan of prep school programs. I think most of it's smoke and mirrors. Most of it's self-serving. There certainly is some good in it, but I believe the school experience it's more than just basketball. It's your friends, it's your social life, it's the order of progression in life where you get to have a holistic experience in school. So anyway, I presented that, and I take no credit or don't say, that's why they finally did it all these years later. But there were a lot of people like myself who saw the need for this. This is the first year for the 5A provincials where we do have the elite schools from around the province competing on both the boys and girls sides. And yesterday, and they're being held in Edmonton, by the way, at Strathcona High School, at Harry Ainley High School, and at the Great Saville Community Sports Center. And I put the asterisks by that with in spite of the parking. But but we went and watched Raymond play McGrath. Now, I don't know if you know how much you know about Raymond and the Southern Alberta folks and the impact, Josh and Manib. I don't know if you know their history.
Not enough.
No, as a guy who was born in South Alberta, I still don't know.
Okay, real quickly, because this is worth saying. We moved to Edmonton in 1987. My family, moved to Edmonton. My wife's from Edmonton, but we moved our family here then. And started paying attention to basketball and went to the provincial championships. And I want to say it was 1988. They were held at the University of Alberta in the old gym. And it was Raymond against McGrath. So I started asking questions. That's Mormon country, LDS country down there. My brother-in-law, Norm Watson, is LDS. So I started asking about it. I said, how big, this is pretty amazing. I thought those were rural schools. And he goes, well, they are. Raymond has 200 kids in their high school. 200 kids.
Whoa.
McGrath has less. And they're in the 4A provincial finals, and they're really good. Now, to me, that was like Hoosiers, the movie, the great movie Hoosiers, like all over again. But this was 1987. And I go, how in 1987 can this be happening? We're in 2026, and it's still happening. McGrath playing Raymond in the semifinals of the 5A with these teeny tiny schools. And Raymond will most likely, hopefully, run the table tonight against Western Canada, a huge school out of Calgary, who I can't stand. Absolutely loathe Western Canada. So Raymond, go kick their butts. I have reasons for that. But anyway, this is just an amazing story. So we went and watched Raymond play McGrath. Yeah.
What leads to their success at being at such a small school? Like, what is it? Scout? Like, is it the scouting of?
Dude, it's just basketball country down there.
It's the LDS mentality towards sports embedded into a community that knows how to compete. They have produced so many Division I and university and college athletes out of those three schools. Throw Cardston in there as well. Mm-hmm. Raymond also is a football powerhouse.
Yeah.
They've won 5A football many, many times with this teeny tiny school. So they just have a culture down there that just ingrains winning. Watching the Raymond girls yesterday, they have an outstanding player named Pippa Gibb. Her sister Delaney Gibb plays at BYU and is a phenomenal athlete in BYU. Like was an all-conference player for BYU this year as a sophomore. But all of their girls could run. They were all athletic. They had 5 or 6 girls that were legitimate snipers, deep three. They played McGrath 6 times this year, beat them all 6. They beat them by like 40 points effortlessly yesterday, and McGrath's good.
Yeah.
They're going to square off against Jasper Place High School, Lauren Green, the wonderful coach for JP. She'll lead her team again. They got beat, unfortunately, by Western Canada yesterday in the semis. That'll be a great game between McGrath and JP. But I would look for Raymond, hopefully, to defeat Western Canada and hopefully run them off the court tonight. But that marvelous story. Real quickly, I went over, my son Steve played at Ross Shepherd High School. I had the privilege of coaching there with the great Dave Youngs, decades ago, and still have great loyalty. So we went and watched this game yesterday. It's Ross Shep against Strathcona in Strathcona to go to the 5th, 6th place game. They both lost in their first rounds. Skona's up 11 in the 4th quarter. Ross Shep hits 5 threes in a row, comes back, wins by 1.
Wow.
So you got your own March Madness right here. And, the excitement, it meant every bit as much to those girls, to their families, to their fans, as anything that we watch on TV as well.
On that note, I texted Ben yesterday after that win that he had. And I got to watch a little bit of that as well just after, and want to congratulate him on, he's a hell of a coach. Yep. And they both are. I know Josh Spronk on the other side very well as well. Yep. So college, basketball just in our city. And it's really growing. And I wanted to add, you're a huge part of that. And I want you to know, what you meant to not just Edmonton basketball, but basketball Alberta, basketball Canada as a whole, right? I think that you've been a huge part of that, and I want you to honestly, truly hear from us, even from our generation, and that growing for us as well. And basketball, again, is such a big part of my life, and I love it so much, love coaching it, love hearing about it, talking about it, watching it, right? And athletes, and being involved in high school basketball now, it's so fun. The excitement, you talked about March Madness. Yeah, we had some games this year that were so close, overtime, buzzer beaters.
Well, and that's where I go. If that's where I go real quickly on the prep school thing, is you've got kids in their communities with their friends. Think how much your friends and your schools and your communities meant to you as you went through those years, let's call them formative years. You guys are still forming. You're young guys.
Yeah.
But how important that part of your life is, along with the sports. Now, 30 years ago, Canadians weren't on the radar south of the border. Mm-hmm. Now, it really doesn't matter. And here's where the delineation comes in with me. if you're an elite athlete, upper level, like let's say a Hudson Ward was.
Yeah.
Now, Hudson stayed too long at prep school in Edmonton, in my opinion, but Hudson Ward should have gone to an upper level prep school elsewhere, gotten out of this community. But it served his purpose, playing here. He got a scholarship to Penn State over his ability. He's at Western Michigan. He's still struggling. He hasn't found his rhythm yet. But I think years 3 and 4 for him will be much better. But, okay, take a kid like that. But 98% of the kids should just stay in their high schools. Play with their friends. Become the best players they do. Do some club stuff.
Yes.
Play some stuff like that to supplement and get better. But play rat ball with your friends. Play some club. Play for your school. Have the whole experience. You're still going to become good based on what you do in the gym when nobody's looking anyway.
And when you're good enough, they'll find you.
They
will find you.
Those days are done.
Yeah.
There's very few guys that just slip through the cracks, like the Illinois kid who was 266. That's still going to happen. But he was still identified.
Yeah,
still going to get a
so
division.
rare.
Yeah, and kids up here are getting scholarships. We have 15 Albertan boys playing D1 now.
Yeah.
Most
Long Island University's 2 leading scorers are from Canada.
Yeah. I mean, there are 168 Canadian men and 150 Canadian women playing Division I basketball this year.
Yeah.
So 318 plus Canadian athletes. They'll find you.
They'll find you.
Absolutely.
Social media made it so, you can always get seen.
And you can't mixtape your way into a coach's heart. You've got to get identified, then you got to demonstrate. And also, by the way, guys, it's going to be harder now unless you're an unreal freshman to start breaking in, particularly at the upper echelons. The pathway now to Division I might not be going Division I. It might be playing youth sports and being really good. They'll find you that way too, or playing D2 or low-level D1 or junior college. Junior college is a great option because you don't use any eligibility.
Yes.
So it's all changing. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. We have our good friend Manip Khan with us today. And guys, I've waxed on way too long, and we've got Lisa. We really want to give her time today as well. But let's continue with our 3 from deep, Josh.
Absolutely. Okay, so March Madness on the men's side. Talk about some fantastic finishes. We saw it yesterday with Kentucky and Santa Clara. Santa Clara comes down, bang. Any other time I would have been like, this game's over. But because it's March, I knew Kentucky would march down and get this basket.
Did you?
I was sitting there. I was like, any other time I would say this game's over, but like something's going to happen here.
Don't you think that's karma too? Because I was thinking, is that the basketball gods writing the universe for Kentucky after the Christian Laettner shot all those years ago? Now Kentucky gets a break. I picked Santa Clara. I
picked Santa Clara also.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did because Kentucky hasn't, even though they have the largest quote-unquote payroll in college basketball, they just haven't gelled. They demonstrate what can go wrong with NIL, of buying talent that doesn't gel.
But they got the short end of the stick when Cal kind of walked out the door with them, and because, a lot of transfers happened right after he walked out the door.
100%.
And I think regardless of the money that they have in flux, you have to find the right guys. Dan Hurley always talks about, like the recruitment process of it. I need 4 guys that are my guys. Right.
You need your dogs. Like Kelvin Sampson. He turns people away because they're not going to play the way he wants. Whereas if you're purchasing talent, if you're purchasing ratings and et cetera, you're right. But I thought the Kentucky thing was interesting. And then there is, my conversation with Mike DeCourcy that I recorded just before the show today. Mike goes into the controversy around the
eligibility.
Santa Clara coach wanting to call a timeout.
Timeout, yeah.
And both sides are right, but in the end, it's just very human, the fact that the officials were sprinting down the court. The coach was too far away to get the officials' attention, and Kentucky did a great job of inbounding the pass for a lucky shot.
Yeah.
But they gave themselves the opportunity for that lucky shot by adjusting to it so quickly.
But that happens so often in college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
It's absurd, especially in the madness of March.
Yeah.
It happens so often. And tough. I mean, we were just talking about it before you got here, Paul. A lot of coaching funny moments. I mean, there was a coach yesterday that wanted to fire his staff at halftime. Did you see that?
Was that the Wisconsin coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, did you guys? Now, I wanted to ask you this. I saw this last night, this press conference with the Wisconsin coach. Now, I was wondering, though, is this AI? Because of
Good
what he
question.
said. Did you see that?
No, I can probably go find it though really quick.
Would you do that? Before I comment on it, I want to make sure, because this is one I could look at and say, that's got to be AI.
You said this is the
Because what he
Kentucky
said.
coach?
Pardon?
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin
coach. Look that up, and when we get a couple of minutes, we'll talk about that. The other, of course, before we go to break, we have to touch on High Point, their win over Wisconsin. And Mike DeCourcy again goes into the complaining of how the High Point coach was not ready for this, because here this guy comes, and I don't know if you've seen any of the photos of what High Point is. Do you know anything about it?
I have, yeah.
It's like a resort.
Yeah.
You're going to a resort.
Yeah.
It must be $80,000 to go there.
A semester.
It could be. It could be, because it's like going to a 5-star resort to go to school. But the irony in it, of course, that they won as an underdog, as High Point. Number 2, the kid that made the layup, there were stories before the tournament that he hadn't made a 2 all year.
All year.
So he gets a breakaway layup in a fluke. It just, the irony in it is just crazy. So, High Point, they kind of dispelled the fear, although I hope we have time to break this down a little bit later too, but they kind of dispel the notion that the days of upsets are over. They are fewer. We got to go to break. Sorry, everybody, but there's just so much to talk about. This is so much fun. This is like 2 hours. We'll rant at you for 2 hours about March Madness. But we have the great Lisa Thomaidis that we have to bring on. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll have the privilege of talking with the 2-time back-to-back national championship winner from the University of Saskatchewan, Lisa Thomaidis, right after we take a break here on your Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 14. Honored and excited about our guest coming up. I'd like to welcome in the 2-time back-to-back defending national champion, coach of the University of Saskatchewan Huskies, Lisa Thomaidis. Lisa, it's just such a privilege to have you on today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Paul. This is going to be fun. What a great time of year, hey?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
And the thing, Lisa, about it is it's the way the insanity just. It's like bumper cart basketball of just phenomenal, cool stuff going on. I mean, you had your youth sports championships. Right now, Canadian CCAA championships, I believe, are wrapping up today. High school provincials are going on, March Madness for both men and women. And other than that, there's no basketball.
Exactly. I know, so much fun. I was just in Edmonton watching some of the provincials. I got back to Saskatoon. We had our high school cities. And like you said, youth sports already done. I've got NC2A in the background here. It's just, for those basketball fans, it's just the best time of year. So lots of excitement, lots of fun.
Well, speaking of lots of fun, Lisa, how would you describe, I don't think that's kind of lots of fun is the way you would describe winning another national championship, but talk about this road. I mean, I don't want to diminish what you accomplished by saying you rolled through the competition, because I know you had some challenges along the way to your undefeated regular season, but talk about the journey, because you had a bump in the road when you got to the playoffs.
We sure did. Yeah. That's always the fear, right? You rack up a bunch of wins in a row. So we had just an exceptional team. And I've said it a few times. The team, I think, was really, the foundation was built in COVID. 5 of these players came in as first years during COVID, and we didn't have a season. And we learned a lot about them during that year, because we were allowed to kind of have individual training and these weird kind of restrictions in Saskatchewan, where if you were under 18, you could get together in small groups of under 4 or 5, something like that. And so during that year, these players just put in a ton of work. And, two from the Edmonton area played at St. Albert, Taya DeMong, Maya Flindle came the following year. But I think that really was the start of things, just seeing them work and how much they put in to get better and to be great. And by their third year of eligibility, they're in the national final, lose a close one to Carleton by 3 points in Edmonton. And I think, as much as they had a fire to compete and to win, that really lit it. And pretty much from a couple of weeks after that loss in the national final 3 years ago, this team was on a mission and turned around. And last year, again, it was a bit of a storybook ending there, getting a chance to play Carleton in the national final and avenge the loss from the previous year and, won in double digits. And then from November 2024 up until February, we went on a 52-game winning streak. And it was pretty incredible.
That's not bad.
But again, yeah. You don't really think about it. You don't really realize it until all of a sudden, people start talking about it. Once you hit 50, that's a lot of games. But then, like you said, we hit a blip and semifinals in Canada West Championship, and on our home court, we lost to the Dinos, the same team that the last team that we lost to back in November. So I think a few coaches commented to me and texted me and said, as crappy as it is that the winning streak is done, you probably just increased your chances of winning the national championship because of that loss. So, you know what? Like, if that was what we had to go through to win a national championship, we'll take it. I mean, it's unfortunate we didn't get a chance to bring another Can West banner home, but by far winning a national championship is just incredible. And to do it again with this group, like I said, it's a bit of a fairy tale ending, 5 fifth years and 3 fourth years, and to go out on a winning note, like who gets to do that? Who gets to do that in terms of a back-to-back national championship? So yeah.
I can tell you who, Lisa. The University of Saskatchewan. Yeah. And by the way, it's a bit greedy to say you're a little disappointed about not bringing the Canada West banner home. I mean, come on.
A bit of an embarrassment of riches.
I guess so. No, why didn't we get that? Poor Lisa's at home tormenting herself. We should have just had that one banner. It's remarkable the way you described it, because the very little good, in my opinion, came out of COVID. But there are diamonds in the mud, and you just described one of those diamonds. To have the opportunity to work in a fundamental skill building, team building sense with the players that you described, who are obviously good players but high character people. And to be able to build that kind of foundation that you described. And then I always love the stories in basketball. And obviously you've lived many of them, but you lose to Carleton and then you come back the next year and avenge that loss in the national championship game. Like, you can't make that up.
No, you can't. It really was an incredible storyline throughout the year, and then to finish it off that way. So yeah, pretty incredible for an amazing group of women.
Well, led by an amazing woman. I think you know this, though, the respect that I have for you personally, at least as a person and as a coach. But I always thought one of the highlights of having the senior women's national team make their home in Edmonton in their practice and preparation for all those years at the Saville Community Sports Center was the opportunity for our young girls in this community to be able to watch your teams practice and watch how you and your great staff coached those women at a time when Canada's team, coming off the surprisingly great finish in 2012 in London, when I think you were an assistant to Alison McNeil, I believe, at that time, when you surprised the world and qualified in Turkey to go to London and then did very well, fared well. But that was the start of an amazing ascendancy that you were such an integral part of.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I mean, it was an incredible run for sure. Like you said, kind of beat all the odds and qualified for the 2012 Olympics. That was just an amazing run. And thinking back to that time, like I remember in 2012 thinking, holy cow, this is the first time our Canadian women's national team is going to be on national TV. Like, our games were televised. And prior to that, we'd never played in Canada. people didn't know who our national team athletes were. It was really unfortunate, but 2012 was like the beginning of it, where people started to get to know these names and these incredible players that had invested so much of their life into this sport and into the national team. And then to be able to carry that through, like you said, being able to train in Edmonton, it became such a home for us, such a sense of community, and the support that we received there was incredible. And to be able to come back year after year and see those familiar faces, and then the culmination really being, AmeriCup, FIBA Americas, the Olympic qualifier, being hosted at the Saville in 2015, packed, sold out crowd, and just the environment there was
really special.
Definitely one of the highlights of my competitive and basketball experience in life. So it was just fantastic, and so great for those athletes to be able to experience that and to be able to play in Canada at a meaningful tournament.
We have Manib is a host here on Sports 1440 with his own sports show, and he's one of our guest hosts today. He has a question for you.
Hey,
Okay,
Coach.
sure.
Big fan. Thank you for everything you've done for sports and basketball culture in Western Canada and Alberta and Pacific. I just had a quick question about
For sure.
coaching overseas. What is, there's a lot of conversation around, basketball culture in different places. In your opinion, obviously basketball's taken you to so many different places. Is there an actual difference between European basketball versus basketball in Canada? And if so, like or is that just kind of made up?
For sure, there's a lot of difference. I think, Canadian basketball, we're so influenced by the U.S. And, we see the NBA, we see the NC2A, we're so drawn in by that. And I think we model, I think, what happens down there. And in Europe, it's very different. I would say, the American model is much more one-on-one isolation, that type of basketball, where in Europe it is much more a team game. And so the fundamentals and how the game is taught in Europe is much more around, pass and cut and movement with and without the ball, and share the ball and change sides of the floor, and it's team play. Where, again, like I said, in the US, it's a little more stand around and watch one guy go one-on-one and, find the mismatch or find the matchup that you want, and you kind of go at it. And so, I'd say that's the primary difference. And then how it's taught, you just see a whole different skill set, just a quick example with my German national team. We had, the majority of the players were 6'3" and over, but they had guard skills. And, prime example, you got Leonie Fiebig, who's a New York Liberty guard. She's 6'4" shooting guard. And, you just don't see that here. You kind of put players a little bit more in boxes as far as what position they play. And in Europe, again, it sounds a little bit cliche, but I'd say it's a little more positionless. It's learn how to play the game the right way. Everyone kind of has to learn all the skills, be able to handle the basketball, shoot it, and share it. And I'd say, again, because we're influenced so highly from the U.S., it's just a little bit different approach, I'd say, to skill development and how we teach it.
It's a great question and a great answer, Lisa. I think it'd be interesting if we could do an actual statistical chart of practice to game ratio, because I think it's probably like 4-1 in Europe, and it's probably 1-4 in North America in terms of practice versus play games. I think we play so many games here. And like you said, box kids in at such a young age to what position they're playing, and then the emphasis on one-on-one and screen pick and roll basketball. That's a whole different discussion. If we had 2 hours, Lisa, we could start.
Totally.
We could
totally
scratch
break
the
that
surface on that topic. So, Lisa, you're no longer coaching the German national team. Are you just backing away from that kind of involvement now, national team, and just focusing in on your university experience? Or are there other facets that you're adding in that are different from the national team responsibilities that you've had?
About a year ago, it became apparent that I was going to have to step down, because when the dates came out for this new system of qualifying for the World Cup, I saw that it was early March. And of course, early March is when our U Sports National Championships are. And so when I looked at that, I thought, I just don't know how I can possibly do this any longer. For the longest time, the FIBA windows were opposite any conflicting U Sports schedule. And so it was perfect. As much as it was incredibly busy, I mean, the Olympic qualifier for Paris was in February, and I had to miss some time with my Saskatchewan Husky team, but it didn't conflict in terms of playoffs or national championships. So when I saw this date, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to pull the plug at some point here. And the other thing was my one German assistant coach was hired by the Golden State Valkyries. So I didn't have her on the ground in Germany kind of being my contact. And then my other assistant, Claire Meadows, who's a youth sport coach also with Queen's University, she was going to have the same conflict. And so I was stuck with, okay, I don't even have a staff. So, you know what, unfortunate, but the timing was right. I mean, I loved every single minute of coaching that German national team. We went on an incredible run over the course of 3 years. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. And so I think just kind of stepping away, I think the international coaching I've closed that chapter. And like I said, loved every minute of it. And now it's a little bit more of an opportunity to focus in. We've got a whole lot of recruits coming in next year to try to replace the special team that we had this season. So directing a little bit more of my time and efforts towards that, which I'm happy for as well.
Well, the line in Vegas that you'll be successful at that is about even. I think you're going to do just fine, Lisa.
You're sweet.
Lisa, it's such a pleasure. I mean, you're such a wonderful person, but you're a phenomenal coach, but you're a better person. And I appreciate the impact that you've had on young women's lives. One of your players is just been named the Coach of the Year in CCAA. Kira Lyons also,
yes.
Kira's done a remarkable job. And there is no doubt that her experience in playing for you and in knowing you was a big contributed mightily to the success that Kira is growing into at Nate. But Lisa, all kudos to you. Congratulations on another national championship. And thank you for making time and spending time with us today.
Absolutely. Anytime, Paul. I really appreciate it. This is amazing. Always fun talking basketball with you. You're such a promoter and such a, just hoops junkie, I guess. And
lifelong.
Love how much you support women in basketball and really appreciate all that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa Thomaidis, head coach, University of Saskatchewan, two-time national champions, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, you're going to listen to a phenomenal night. If you're a hoops junkie, as Lisa just said, you're going to want to listen to Mike DeCourcy in our next segment. Mike is the lead writer for the Sporting News, has been since 1995, and man, do we go into the weeds, and it is great, compelling conversation. Here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, Manib Khan, on your Sports Leader, Sports 1440.
Welcome back to Hoop City with Paul Sir. I am pleased to be joined this morning by someone we've had on the show many, many times over the years, but it's been a while, Mike. And Michael DeCourcy has been the lead basketball columnist at Sporting News since 1995. Mike also writes with a lot of Canadian content as well. And Mike, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, especially after the first 2 days of March Madness. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Paul. It's nice to talk to you.
Well, it's nice to talk to you as well. Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's go real high level. What were your first impressions of the first 2 days of March Madness?
Yeah, I think that one of the really interesting things that came out of the first couple days is this. I wrote about it on Friday. Is this push by some of the mid-majors to declare that they are being put upon and treated badly, and the one that it was primarily coming from Clayman of High Point, Flynn Clayman, and the idea that somehow his team has been mistreated to be a 12 seed from a league that 10 times in the last 15 years, I think, maybe 20, 10 times has gotten a 16 seed. His team gets a 12 seed out of the Big South. And all he's got after they beat Wisconsin, is complaints. That's all he's got. No one will play them. And one of the things that has bothered me the most about this argument is there are two. First of all, and I'm a huge believer in the automatic qualification process because I don't believe that any championship is real unless every team involved can look at it at the beginning of the year and say, how do I get to play for the championship? Okay, I have to do that. I mean, if you look at the Masters in golf, you win a tournament on the PGA Tour, you're qualified. You finish, I don't know, top 30 in the money rankings or whatever the number is, and you qualify. There are certain qualifications you have to meet. In the U.S. Open tennis, if you're ranked by their computer at X level, you're in. And every sporting event has that. And college football in the U.S. didn't have that until recently, the last 2 years. We get to the end of the year, we'll tell you who's good, which was garbage. But college basketball has always had, you win the Big South, you're in. And of course, it's morphed into you win the Big South tournament, but that's their choice. If they wanted it to be you win the Big South regular season, you get in. That's up to them, but they choose the tournament. Okay, fine. So High Point wins the tournament. They're in. So that's an important component of what makes the NCAA tournament special. But that presents to what are now considered mid-major leagues about 37% of the field of the 68 teams. They automatically get 37% of the field. That's more. Paul, there aren't 37% of the best teams in college basketball are not mid-major. That's the reality. If it were the case, we would see more mid-major champions or more mid-major Final Four teams or even more mid-major Elite Eight teams. We don't see a lot of them because they're not the best teams. But that's okay because, like I said, they should get their chance to show what they're capable of. And they do. But the idea that they are somehow mistreated because High Point can't get games against Duke, if I call the New York Times and say, well, you got to hire me, and the New York Times says no, does that mean I'm not getting a fair deal? No. I mean, so you call Duke and say, you call Duke and say, we want to play, and Duke says, I'm sorry, we don't want to play, and so look, you're being put upon. I mean, it was really frustrating for me to see that become such a loud narrative of the first few days. And this is the second point. The first point is the automatic qualification thing. The second part of it is he complained about the fact Miami of Ohio couldn't get a game, and he couldn't get a game. And my solution to that is, how about you play Miami of Ohio? And the answer to that question was, well, we only had one date open and they only had one date and it didn't fit. That was his answer. They played 2 Division II teams and Miami played 3. You couldn't say, hey, D2 team, we'll play you a different day because we got a chance to play Miami that day or whatever. No, they needed to keep those D2 games. They were too important to lose, but you couldn't play Miami of Ohio. If you look at the teams that either made it or came close, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, St. Louis, San Diego State, New Mexico, all of them had some level of intersection, VCU as well, had some level of intersection with other high-ranking mid-majors because that's a way to get a good game. If you're VCU and you play at Santa Clara, just use an example. You might not want to make that trip, but it's a long one. But if you do that, you're playing a quad 1 game. It's not automatic because Santa Clara's got to be good and all that. But one of the complaints that Miami of Ohio had in their deal was that Pitt wouldn't play them. Well, Pitt was the 15th place team in the ACC. How is that game better for you than playing High Point or playing VCU or Santa Clara? They are missing the solution that's right in front of them, and they're missing it because in their minds, if the 2 of us play and one of us loses, well, we're eliminated. Well, that's how it works, man. You got to win games. If you play Missouri and they lose, that maybe they're eliminated. So why should they play it?
Well, and I really like the point that you're making, because to me it dovetails in to the very complicated quagmire that I look at in the NCAA as it's going through this new reality. I always use the example, Mike, that if I was a basketball fan and I was abducted by aliens 10 years ago and somebody brought me back now, I go, I'm not on the right planet. This isn't
Right.
the NCAA anymore. It's also very different. But I like what you're saying. The complaining isn't the right way to go. I have a lot of familiarity with mid-majors, low majors in Division I. And the way they schedule, a lot of it is who you know and how you hustle and how far out you're willing to schedule if you're looking to get into the bloodstream of a high major. You might be able to find something 3 and 4 years down the road. But like you're saying, you have to be more creative and recognize, where you fit in the food chain if you want to move up, as opposed to, using this platform. And the irony, Mike, I really look forward to your comment on this. The irony is the upset that High Point was able to pull off and all of the drama around that. And then you've got a guy who doesn't relish the moment, but rather uses the moment as a sounding board for his complaints for a school, with all due respect, an elitist school. Beautiful little place. I mean, the facilities there are unreal, and they pull off something special, and you got your coach on a soapbox talking about how hard done by you are.
I couldn't believe how miserable he was. And as I pointed out in my column, in the press conference, he said, I think it was something like about 25 to 30 nice words about his team, and then started to complain. But in the on-court interview after they won, in the delirium that usually accompanies that, the first thing he said to the on-court interviewer was, mid-majors, high majors should play mid-majors because they said we didn't play anybody, and now we did. Well, first of all, nobody was even talking about High Point. Nobody ever said they didn't play anybody. The only team that there was any level of discussion about that with was Miami. High Point was, okay, of what a mid-major automatic qualifier is likely to get. There are a few. I mean, it's more rare now than it was before the net rankings. What people are complaining about, Paul, is the net and the use of predictive metrics like KenPom and BPI, and the use of resume metrics like wins above bubble to get teams in. People are complaining now because those metrics make sense. And they use them to make intelligent decisions. They want to go backwards to the RPI because then they made mistakes. See, that's what people
really
want.
A great point.
Someone said to me that we should go back to the RPI. I said, that's like asking me to go back and ride to town in a horse-drawn carriage. I mean, it's ridiculous. The RPI was antiquated. It didn't tell you enough about the excellence of a team or the achievements of the team. And now with wins above bubble or strength of record, you have really good resume metrics. A resume metric is one, for those who don't know, that factors out how much you win by. It only talks about what kind of quality of opponent you played, what the result was, and what the venue was. Was it home, neutral, or road? And each of those are valued differently. Obviously, a home win is valued less than a road win. If you beat Kentucky on the road, that means more than if you beat Kentucky at home. And those metrics are right now basically the ticket in. And you can't game that. You can't. You can play challenging schedules and win games, or you can play, as Miami did, an unchallenging schedule and win every game, and it still values you. They were still 37th in wins above bubble when they after they had lost to UMass in the conference tournament. And they were clearly in the field. And it was amazing to me because, I mean, I have done the brackets for Fox Sports in the US now for 7 years. And every single person in that community, the people like Lenardi or Jerry Palm, or the people who do it as a hobby and are really excellent at it, every one of us was saying, they're in. It's over. There's no discussion. And now that we know where the number is set, I mean, because we didn't know exactly, unless like some of the people like who maybe know the math of the wins above bubble would know more, but I don't know the math. I can only look at where's it come out. And so some of the people who might know, they might have been able to calculate what it would be once they lost a game. But I needed to see the finality of it or them win the auto bid, whichever. So once I saw them lose and they went from 31 to 37, that was it. It was over. But there's still this discussion among people who don't know. And you know what's really easy, Paul, is ask the people who do know.
No, why would you want to confuse people with the facts, though, Mike? I mean, you would rather just speculating and click on Twitter and start complaining, because I think people like to they feel empowered, whether they're operating from a basis of knowledge or not. I'm talking with Michael DeCourcy from the Sporting News here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Mike, I'd like to shift to a couple of specific games. One is the High Point game and the irony in it. And as you're talking about the coach from High Point, I also looked at the coach from Wisconsin at his press conference, and man, that was a classic. That was an unbelievable meltdown, I guess is the best way I could put it. I never liked the Wisconsin team this year, only because I didn't see the character that you associate with Wisconsin teams in the past in terms of how they conducted themselves as they played. So when they lost, and the irony again of the kid who never made a 2 all year going in for a layup to win it. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. That's one. And the second one was Kentucky. The basketball gods have such a funny way of dealing with March Madness, because it's like the exorcism of the Leitner shot is the guy banking it in a game that a lot of people, myself included, picked Santa Clara to win in, because this is just not a cohesive Kentucky team. Right. Comment on those and any other games that you found of particular interest in the.
Well, I did. So that's the thing. Like, I thought that Klayman should have been talking about the job they did, because, for instance, Nick Boyd, who had a terrific year and was such a force, especially with his ability to go left when everyone knew he was going to go left. I mean, I watched him do it against Purdue on Purdue's senior day, a day that should have ended in celebration for Purdue's trio of seniors, 2 of them 4-year starters, the other a 3-year starter. Braden Smith has been All-American 2 years in a row. Trey Kaufman-Renn was All Big Ten last season. I mean, and that should have been a day of celebration. And they spent the entire, what would have been the fourth quarter if it were a game played in quarters, the entire fourth quarter with no idea how to stop Nick Boyd from going left. Absolutely. I mean, he went left. I should have charted it, but he went left at least 8 times in a row to score. And so, okay, so in crunch time against High Point, he goes left, and what does he find? He finds traffic. And the first time he's able to snake through, and instead of making the right decision, which would have been a kick out, he tries to force a reverse layup. It catches the underside of the rim, and it's a miss. And then subsequent to that, they have one last real chance, and he goes left again, and they know he's coming, and they're right there, and they block his shot. And so they should have been talking about how smart they were when a lot of people in the Big Ten couldn't pull that off, and we just did. But instead, they were talking about what they talked about. You looked at that Kentucky game, and there was a lot of conversation afterward about Herb Sendek tried to call timeout. Well, and I didn't think it was fair to the game officials in that instance to criticize them. I mean, it's probably not Herb's fault, but he wasn't ready. Herb was down the bench, because they showed, like, if you see on the internet now, you can see him circled on the bench, and where the official was at the time that the shot that gave St. Mary's the 3-point lead was launched. He was down the bench. Like if you looked at the bench as a ruler, he was probably at about the 4-inch or 4.5-inch mark, and the ref was at about the 10-inch mark.
Yep.
And so he's far away. If he's adjacent, directly adjacent, planning for, hey, if this shot goes in, we're calling timeout. If he's there, the ref is going to hear him and he's going to stop it. But the Kentucky team is entitled to proceed at their pace after they allow a score. They don't have to wait for Santa Clara to say what they want to do. If they want to call timeout themselves, which they couldn't because they had none, if they want to call timeout themselves, They can do that there. But they knew they had none. So they knew their best chance was to face an unsettled defense. It was really well executed. But it's not on the game officials' responsibility to be, okay, Herb, you want a timeout? No, he's reffing the game that is happening in front of him, and Kentucky chose to inbound the ball immediately and do what they did. So Herb Sendek, there should not have been criticism of the game official there. He was doing his job to retreat, get in position to officiate whether or not, say, the shot was impeded by a foul or whether the shot got off in time, all the rest of that.